It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, when he sits down, looks like he's got less hair than he does when he's standing up. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
It's not a very flattering view, I've acknowledged, but it doesn't help as well that the light in the kitchen is glimmering off the bald spot.
It is. It's spectacular. I may have to put sunglasses on. Neil,
It'll happen to you one day.
It will. I'll go as a ginger. I just go white, I think. Big week last week, Dutton. Got to speak to the brilliant Scott Hansen. Lovely feedback. Hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did.
A great interview. Some of your best work.
Some of my best work, ironically, from your questions. Like you said, you were the Firmino to my Coutinho.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
No, of course. Back to normal fare this week, just me and Neil. So we're going to give you some hot takes. Neil's going to guide you through his fantasy darlings and fantasy losers of the week, and then we're going to finish you up nicely with our DraftKings daily fantasy team of the week.
Indeed, we are.
Let's get this party started, Neil, and let's talk about our hot takes. This week, I think there's multiple places to start, but let's start with money, and let's talk right at the top of the NFL, and that's Roger Goodell signing what can only be described as an outrageous contract, which I believe someone worked out that through the life of his contract he will have earned more in the same period of time as Drew Brees. I know all NFL players, and Drew Brees is at the highest. I assume Roger Goodell is still the NFL commissioner due to one thing and one thing only. The NFL owners have decided it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
It certainly appears that way. I mean, it would look that, a lot of them are probably thinking they don't really want to be bullied by Jerry Jones. And ultimately, everything that he does, as friend Andrew Brandt says, for every one NFL owner Goodell pisses off, there's 31 others who at that precise moment are all slapping on the back and saying, yep, way to go, boy. So ultimately, you look, he has, the biggest criticism of Roger Goodell, I mean, let's look, trying to make the NFL safer, which I know we're going to come to in a bit. He's got, he's expanded the game internationally, certainly in terms of the number of countries where the game is played. The biggest criticism of him is that discipline still appears to be slightly slipshod, and that it's, arbitrary. I mean, call me cynical, but I don't think it's right to ban someone for the same number of games for a play during a game that may have been illegal, which it probably was, and then another one, a different person gets the same length of ban for essentially firing a projectile missile into the back of someone's head. Now, the discipline is an area that Roger Goodell has basically made his own, but it does seem that he spent the last 12 years basically doing it by the seat of his pants.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's weird because there isn't any hard and fast rules apart from the fact he's judge, jury, and executioner. I think as the players have said and found out to their cost, accidentally forgetting about this in the CBA was probably an issue, and something that I don't think will happen again, and may actually lead to a lockout. But that's a couple of years away yet.
The problem being, as I say, it's a collective bargaining agreement. So, yeah, okay, Roger, we'd like you to give up disciplinary. Okay, I'm going to take away this then. Oh, no, we need that. Well, what do you want? Exactly.
And I think it's very, for people in the UK, I sometimes think it's difficult to understand that kind of concept where, the players and the owners have to agree how they're going to play and how they're going to pay and how they're going to split money and whatever. It's very different to how it is in the UK, for example, in all their sports. I think from a media point of view and discipline, the things that we see as fans, Roger Goodell's a joke, right? But as you quite rightly point out, from an owner's point of view, he's made them a lot of money, and while Roger Goodell is being fired bullets at, they're not firing bullets at the NFL owners. That's a good thing for them. And as you quite rightly pointed out, Jerry may have decided this year that he wanted Roger Goodell's public enemy number one, but I don't remember him screaming from the rooftop when Tom Brady was about to be suspended.
No. Similarly, that Robert Kraft probably wasn't his best mate last year, but now you would assume, with everything else that's gone on, Bob's probably quite happy with Rog.
Exactly, Neil, exactly. So, for those who don't like Roger Goodell, I've got bad news for you. He's here for a long while to come. As
Andrew Bant said, this is not like the usual NFL contract. It won't be 2 years and then let's see.
Yeah, exactly. Neil, you talked about play safety briefly in the Roger Goodell situation, and I just, it's not a rant I want to go on, but I want to try and be on the side of maybe not the players on this one, which is not usually like us. We usually side with the millionaires, not the billionaires, so to speak.
We are everyday people.
Exactly. Bengals Steelers was UFC. Let's be brutally honest about that. It wasn't good. Those teams bring out the worst in each other, but I'm not really here to talk about that. Juju Smith-Schuster was suspended one game for a football-related play. Let's be honest, and there was more nonsense in that game. Mike Mitchell, safety for said Pittsburgh Steelers, gave an impassing Twitter rant, I guess, and then backed that up with a press conference about how he believed that players were being fined. For example, he said he was done for a headshot on, I can't remember who it was. It was Tyler Eifert in a Bengals game last year because, quote unquote, Andy Dalton threw a bad ball, and I understand the sentiment that Mike Mitchell believes in his heart, and he believes in his heart that the NFL should be played a certain way by, and I'm going to quote this, people, men who play hard and hit hard, and the winner of that, pissing contest then takes the spoils. And I understand that. And, Paul Mannering, if he was 36 in 1974, probably would agree with them. The issue is, for Mike, and it becomes mixed up in the Roger Goodell noise all around this, is that the issue that Mike Mitchell has got is there is literal evidence that him firing himself like a missile with his helmet at someone else's head, or not at someone else's head, but hitting someone else in the head because that person ducks, shortens that person's life. Now, I understand that from the age of 6, this is how Mike's been told to do things. I can't argue with. But what Mike needs to realise is that has to stop, because that's not how you can tackle now, and that's not just. And if he wants to put his body and his health on the line, okay. I would like him to stop that, but I don't think it can. But I don't think he should be endangering others. And I think he is. And the NFL players and the Players Association need to have a conversation with themselves along this and say, I understand that you think this is how football is supposed to be played because that's how we've always done it. But guess what? It can't be done like that anymore. You need to tackle better. You need to stop using your helmet as a weapon or a way to stop things.
Ultimately, you're taught, and bear in mind, I say, spoiler alert, and in the interest of full disclosure, I actually am a qualified American football coach. Very low qualification, so I'm not exactly going to be sitting here and I'm going to scheme X and O's at you. But I do know you are taught to tackle thumbs up, heads up. And you do not try and tackle what you cannot see. That means if you've dropped your head, you probably shouldn't be trying to tackle someone, because then you don't become a tackler, you become a missile. These are hardened plastic shells these people have on their heads. They are designed to withstand impact, but also dish it out. The issue I have, if this was I'm trying to think of someone. If this was, I don't know, any other safety, Malcolm Jenkins. If this was Malcolm Jenkins who came out and said it, or someone of that ilk, then you could say, I'm being punished I've been punished for a hit on a defensive player because of a bad pass. You might look at it and think, yeah, okay, you've got a point, Malcolm. Mike Mitchell is one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. He's a cheap shot artist. He does it all the time. I have no sympathy with him. He's just decided that now he's going to come out and try and appear to be hard done by. No, mate. The game doesn't need people like you. It doesn't need people like Vontaze Burfict. And it didn't need people like Hines Ward, who's one of the dirtiest players I've ever seen as well. Hell, that's why you can't do crackback blocks anymore, because of Hines Ward. And as you say, that's not what people want to see, because, guarantee, in 20, 30 years, when Mike Mitchell's quality of life has deteriorated, is he going to come out and say, I should still hit people? No, of course he won't. But he comes across now as this wounded animal. No, piss off, mate. I thought, there's many things I could drown in, a deep ocean. The eyes of a beautiful woman, not crocodile tears.
I just look and think, in this day and age, things evolve, and it's nice to nostalgically look back at the way people played or whatever. But I don't think, if things continue the way they're continuing, the NFL won't exist. And I think they need to be brutally honest about that. And those NFL players need to take a look at rugby in the UK, in Australia and New Zealand, and see that there is a way to tackle people. I would not say safely, because players still get injured in rugby, absolutely, and concussions still happen. But there is a way to not lead with your head. It's possible.
Only hit what you can see.
Correct. Back onto matters on the field, and this is a shout out to the Seahawks. Yeah, thanks for that. The Seahawks, the Rams, the Panthers, the Falcons. I guess not the Saints, not really the Eagles. I guess Minnesota. Keep winning, because can you hear that? That noise that you can hear faintly in the background is Aaron Rodgers music.
Why the Packers are still in this hunt is beyond me, considering how inept Brett Hundley has been. But it just goes to show how inept the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been as well, which is a totally different story for another day. If Rodgers comes back, I said this on the Nakum show on Tuesday, he does have some difficult matchups in the next 2 weeks after this week, where they're playing the Browns, who are rebuilding again. But he's Aaron Rodgers. And, if he comes back, that ends Jordy Nelson's 2-month sabbatical. It all of a sudden makes the ground game, which has been quite effective the last 2 weeks, even more dangerous. Does it hide the fact that their defence is gash? No. And ultimately, that's where it'll come back to.
It will do, Neil. I just think that, it's that kind of, we thought they were dead, but they're not quite dead. As you said, I think maybe the victory over Tampa Bay is more about Tampa Bay than it is about Green Bay. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. It doesn't really matter at this point. And this week they're playing, the JV squad in Cleveland. Unfortunate. Ironically, the Cleveland Browns may come up later. I just look and think, if you're one of those teams, and as we've said in the past, the NFC South, who play each other a lot in the next few weeks, you could really do without another team with a chance to get to 10-6.
I say the arm's gone up twice and come down twice. It needs to stay up the third time, or it's all over. It's just wobbling.
It is, Neil. It is. They're the hot takes this week. We were a bit, real there, Neil. Bit, real life. So let's.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
But let's drift from the real world, where things are horrible, and if we looked really, we'd hide in our houses for the rest of the time, and go into fantasy. And let's look good fantasy, Neil. And I want to know from you, who's your fantasy darling this week 14?
Hello, darling.
There's been a lot of statements out of the New York area the last week regarding the quarterback regarding the head coach, regarding the general manager. And one person who's come out and been seen a lot is John Mara, who is described as the owner of the New York Giants. We know this isn't true, because we know that Jason Witten owns the New York Giants.
Hey.
They are, of course, playing. Jason Witten has 153 career receptions against the Giants and 14 touchdowns. And he's been a tight end one in fantasy in 8 of his past 11 games against them. He will do some good things this week.
That's just to double check. That's their good stats, right?
They are pretty good.
Jason Witten, everyone's favourite hero, not going to head coach Tennessee, as was reported in some newspaper, because he's still got unfinished business with the New York Football Giants. However, not every player is in a lucky position as Jason Witten this week. Some people are in really bad ones, and Neil's going to explain to you one right now.
Well, I'm actually going to double the money, and I'm going to give you 2. And I've mentioned them before, and I was proved pretty much right, and I'm going to do it again. That's Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. In their last 2 games, Robbie Anderson and Jermaine Kearse of the Jets have 30 receptions for 515 yards. In their last 3 games, Manny Sanders and Demaryius Thomas have 19 receptions for 146. These 2 teams play each other this week. Obviously, it's not exactly a direct correlation, but what Sanders and Thomas would give for half of that production, because they haven't got anywhere near half. I don't think you can trust the Denver offense. They are a spiralling train wreck, and it doesn't matter which clown they put at quarterback, it's going to lead to bad things. So I know a lot of people are in, it's week 14, it's fantasy playoff week. Please don't trust either of these 2. It'll only end in tears.
Do you remember when the Denver Broncos were good?
I haven't got that good a memory.
That seems like a very long time ago. And ironically, it was kind of the season.
Yep.
Fancy darling Jason Witten. Fancy losers. The Denver Broncos wide receiving core, 1 and 2, Sanders and Thomas, who we used to talk a lot about in our fancy teams of the week. They're not going to be in it this week, but let's find out who is.
Mains and Duts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who is your quarterback this week?
My quarterback is Phil Rivers, 6,800. He has... Let's see this. In his last 3 games, he's completed 72% of his passes at an average of 343 yards per game. He has 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He has 15 or more fantasy points in 9 of 12 games this season. And he has, in his last 5 games against NFC opponents, he has thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. Who's he playing, mate?
He's playing your Washington semi-professional football team. As I know you love a stat, my question now becomes, has he double stacked based on how Washington defend a certain position? But I'm sure we will find out. Neil, you've gone for Phillip Rivers. I've gone for the prettiest player in the NFL. And everybody's new favourite heartthrob, starting quarterback for Will Gavin and Marcus Grant's San Francisco 49ers, Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. He's playing the Houston Texans. He's 5,500, which is cheap at half the price. The Texans are allowing 24 points a game, 28th in the league, and 250 odd yards a game. Jimmy is about to resurrect Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's careers. And bring San Francisco into the 21st century, Neil.
If they could avoid doing Washington Redskin type things and actually start scoring touchdowns instead of kicking field goals, that would be lovely.
If I'm honest, based on the fact that the Chicago Bears can't score, and the kicker for the for the 49ers in that game is the highest point scorer in Chicago Bears history. I wouldn't be surprised if they deliberately did that to allow Robbie Gould to kick 5 field goals and to beat them. As one of the best sights of the day was when he kicked the 5th one and started screaming at the Chicago Bears sideline.
Yeah, you're a kicker.
Yeah, okay. But in the history of the Chicago Bears, has the most points. Let's be brutally honest. We're not talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars here. This is a team that's been in existence since about 1919. It's a decent effort.
Jay Cutler's thrown their most passing yards and touchdowns. I really couldn't care less.
I knew you were going to say that because I knew that too. Running back 1, Neil.
Peyton Barber at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 4,500. He had 102 rushing yards last week against said Green Bay Packers. This week they're playing the Detroit Lions, who are still in the midst of their generous nature towards running backs. They've allowed a rushing touchdown in their last 7 games, longest streak in the NFL.
I've gone for a running back from the Los Angeles Chargers, who's playing the Washington Semi-Professional Football Team. As me and Neil seem to be having a theme here, we expect Washington to get absolutely spanked by the Chargers, especially on defense. The Skins are allowing 117 yards a game. They allowed Alfred Morris to run up and down the field last Thursday. They have allowed that multiple times in multiple games, and they will allow it again here. Melvin Gordon is, how much is he? He is 7,800. He's the most expensive player in my team, and I expect him to get the most points. Running back 2, Neil.
Running back 2 is Duke Johnson, 4,600. He has a touchdown in 3 of his last 5 home games. They're playing the Packers, excuse me, who are allowing the 7th most receptions to running backs this season. Duke Johnson is the only running back with 50-plus catches in his first 3 seasons in NFL history.
That's one of them hidden things because if no one watches the Browns, no one knows that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
My running back 2 comes from a game I've already discussed, which is Houston at the 49ers, and I've gone for Lamar Miller. He's averaging 12 to 14 points a game. He's got over 10 points in 6 of his last 7 games. He is playing the San Francisco 49ers, who stink. And he is 5,800. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
5,500. Josh Gordon.
My name is Paul Mannering, and I endorse this message. He is also my wide receiver 1. I think we've Neil could chuck a load of stats at us for Josh Gordon, but in theory they'd either be from like 3 years ago or from 1 game. So I think what I would like to say on Josh Gordon is, congratulations, well done. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Whoever you're speaking to, keep doing it. Whatever you do, it's a day-to-day thing, and I hope that you continue to play in the NFL, because if you continue to play in the NFL, the demons that you've had in the past are being kept at bay. He
went up with, precious little prep time, hasn't played proper football for nearly 3 years, and absolutely dominated one of the best cornerbacks in the game.
Yeah.
And now he's going up against the Green Bay Packers and Teflon Don Capers. You ain't stopping him.
No. Indeed, Neil. Indeed. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
My indulgence this week, 7,300, is AJ Green. He had 2 touchdown catches last week, which was his 6th career multi-touchdown game. He has 8 touchdown catches this season. That's 4th in the NFL. In his past 3 games against an NFC opponent, he has 26 catches for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he saw 16 targets last week. So I think, the Bears are shite. I'm just hoping saying otherwise. And aren't trying to score points. So I think the Bengals will score all of them. And AJ Green will get a lot of them.
That's fair, Neil. That's fair. Bit of I wouldn't necessarily say a leap of faith for me now, but against a decent defense, you usually think. But I'm going for one of the top 4 performing wide receivers this year, if not higher, and that's Adam Thielen. Minnesota Vikings. They're playing the Carolina Panthers on the road. It's going to be a tough game. They might not move the ball much, but when they do move the ball, I expect them to move it via Adam Thielen. He is 7,200, and he consistently makes excellent plays week in, week out. Wide receiver 3, Neil.
My wide receiver 3 at 7,200. The Chris Carter for the modern age, Adam Thielen.
Nice.
He has, in his last 3 games against the NFC South, he has 18 receptions for 306 yards.
Nice. Like that. My wide receiver 3 is my stack link to Jimmy Garoppolo. Marcus Goodwin of the San Francisco 49ers. He's 5,100. He's playing the Texans. There's not a lot of talent in the receiving core at San Francisco, but what I spotted was when Jimmy was on the field, he looked for Marquise first. I expect that to continue this week, and I expect some yards and catches in a game against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Goodwin had 21.6% of the targets last week. That was the most on the team.
There we go. That's why you have a stat better than me just saying it, that I saw it on the telly. Who's your tight end, Neil?
Jason Witten, 4,700.
Yeah, already discussed. I see your Jason Witten owns said New York Giants, and I raise you tight end playing Washington semi-professional football team. Hunter Henry is 4,600. He's playing Washington, and Washington aren't as bad as the New York Giants are covering tight ends, but they're probably in the top 2.
Yeah, they're up there.
They would give them a good old-fashioned run for their money.
Yeah, I did regard Henry, and that's a great film gag, by the way. But I thought I'd go with Witten instead.
Yeah, for obvious and spectacular reasons. Who's your flex, Neil?
Marcus Goodwin, 5,100.
Nice.
Actually leads the NFL with a 19.3 yards per reception average this season.
Which is weird, really, considering I didn't know before this week they had a quarterback who could throw that far. Accurately, I guess. My flex is one of the Henry brothers. So not Hunter, it's Derek. Now this is a leap of faith for one reason and one reason only. For the love of God, Tennessee Titans, you have 2 running backs. One of them seems to be falling apart, and the other one is Derek Henry. Now, I know you probably just look at us fantasy nerds or us statisticians with our numbers and stuff, but if you actually just look at it, when you give the ball to Derek Henry, you get closer to the first down than if you give it to DeMarco Murray. I don't know if you need me to draw it on a whiteboard, or I know you don't. I'm almost convinced you don't care about the numbers. That's fine, because stats are for nerds. But maybe just watch a tape and see that Derek Henry runs faster, harder, and further. That's all I'm saying.
The problem is the Titans have got track record for this. If you remember, they said, this was under the previous regime, that they wanted DGB to focus on his run blocking, throwing the damn ball. This year they've got Corey Davis, who they want to get better at run blocking, and Derek Henry, who they want to get better at pass blocking. Why don't you use these people the way they're supposed to, you absolute idiot? Just a thought.
Yeah, I guess, just on that note, I don't know if anyone follows Adam Foxcroft, but he's got a brilliant one this week. He loves the Titans that much. He loves the Titans that much that he knows how to spell the names of the players who he does. NFL Europe, not so much.
Tad annoying, that.
Which time? The first time or the second time?
Probably the first time would be aggravating. The second time would be infuriating.
Defense and special teams, Neil.
The Green Bay Packers. Well, I expect Josh Gordon and Duke Johnson et al. To actually move the ball. Deshaun Kaiser is a sack waiting to happen, and more often than not is going to throw a pick. So 3,700. It's more faith against the Browns than I have in the Packers, to be honest.
What I've done a similar concept on that, Neil, is that you should have faith in something happening in a game, right? So you've got faith that the Packers will sack the Cleveland Browns. I've got faith that Jay Cutler will be Jay Cutler. Now,
it's as good a religion as any.
There's many things that you can rely on this world, and my one this week is Jay Cutler throws at least one pick six. That pick six would be nice for the New England Patriots on Monday night. 3,300. Yes, if you ask my week 4 self about how in week 14 I was picking a New England Patriots defense, he would laugh. But they are much, much better. Shockingly, really. It's almost like they've got really good coaching.
And the Dolphins on primetime again? Yay.
Yeah, that needs to stop. I don't know who he thinks watching that. It's not me. Neil, let's review. Quarterback.
Phil Rivers.
I've got the prettiest man in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo. Running back 1.
Peyton Barber.
I've got Melvin Gordon. Running back 2.
Duke Johnson.
Lamar Miller. Wide receiver 1.
Melvin's cousin Josh.
I've also got Melvin's cousin Josh. Wide receiver 2.
AJ Green.
I've got Adam Thielen. Wide receiver 3.
Adam Thielen.
I've got Marquise Goodwin. Tight end.
Jason Witten.
I've got Hunter Henry. Flex.
Marquise Goodwin.
I've got Derrick Henry. And defense and special teams.
Green Bay Packers.
I've got the New England Patriots. Neil, this week where can people read you, listen to you, follow you? Generally things all about you, please.
All about me. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at ndulton13. I have an article on Josh McCown, the unlikely fantasy superstar of 2017, over at Number Fire. I have my tight end streaming article, Rotoviz, out. I'm also working on another article that might be out by the time you read this, but I can't guarantee that because I'm lazy, about rookie wide receiver for the Rams, Josh Reynolds, in the absence of Robert Woods. You can also download the NFL show with Nat Coombs. I was there on Tuesday. I was on that show. And I'll be on with Nat before kickoff on Sunday for the early slate of games.
Fantastic. I'm at Mandy7. Combined, me and Neil are at waxing_lyrical. We've enjoyed the show. And on that note, these top guys are out.